Natalie's doing a dance of the bugs.
Jesus Christ. Get me out of here! Look at the bugs. They're inside my bra.
Did you get lion's head? Smile, Nat.
The Zeiss Ikon NETTAX is a mid-century 6x6 medium format camera from Germany. The Zeiss Ikon NETTAX was manufactured from 1955 to 1957. This small camera houses a 75mm f4.5 Nova anastigmat lens and a Pronto manual loaded shutter. And what makes this camera different to the popular Nettar is the incorporation of an uncoupled selenium light meter, and the film winding knob is on a different place on the camera body. I found this one at a market in London, not particularly cheap considering the bargains that I'm more attracted to, but I couldn't help myself at £30. It seemed to be in decent shape and I was keen to try out a new old camera. 75mm on a 6x6 square is equivalent to a 41mm field of view on full frame or a 35mm camera. There's no rangefinder on this one, so this is for scale focusing or zone focusing. You need to guess your distances, which I am appalling at. Or you can attach a rangefinder. I have a rangefinder that I've used on this camera, and luckily my rangefinder and my Zeiss Ikon NETTAX are both devices that work with feet, so there's no need to convert to meters or vice versa. Now, I am finding the uncoupled rangefinder process to be a bit of an unnecessary pain for me. I know it's easy, but it gives me the sweats, and as soon as I start using the rangefinder, I immediately assume it's going to go very wrong, my film is going to be wasted, and I get in my head and it's all nuts from there. So before we even get started with the information and the photos that I'm about to share, I think that the two rolls that I've shot with this camera are the only two that I will for a very long time. It's not how I like to make videos generally. I prefer using the camera long term, but if I were to wait for more photos from this camera, we would be waiting for a very long time for this video, and I have other cameras that I'd prefer to explore, move on to, and share with you. So today we will discuss this camera and how I feel about the black and white photos that I've exposed. In particular, Kentmere Panchromatic 100 for Table Mountain and Kentmere Panchromatic 400 for the photos in the UK. And to make a clear point now, I very much love and appreciate this camera. It's me that's the problem. I get too anxious with the uncoupled rangefinder process, and that's all I have to say about that side of it. Now, I know that the stress that I mentioned kind of defeats the purpose that a lot of people have been returning to film photography for. You know, the taking your time to compose and measure your distance, all that stuff. But this camera just doesn't do it for me. I sweat too
All
much.
the bugs. Shake them off. I'll do it. Come here. Turn around.
Is it just me or are they more for me than they are for you?
No, there's probably lots on my back. And they keep coming back. I need to get out of the zone.
The last time I took this camera out was when we went up Table Mountain on a scorching hot day. There were so many bugs and we were walking as a group of 4. And the time that it took for me to sort myself out, getting a frame ready for exposure, was not ideal, and I put a lot of pressure on myself to do it faster, and that totally defeated the purpose of taking this camera out up with me in the first place. No one was rushing me, but I was rushing myself. But with all of that said, one cannot deny the gorgeous imagery and the quality of image that you can achieve from this lens, especially at f5.6 onwards. This photo here, I believe, was exposed at f16 or 22, broad daylight, and it's just a lovely capture with some mountain behind Julia. But you are not limited to just 5.6 onwards. If you check out this image of Julia at f4.5, the sun was pretty much almost gone down and it was cloudy. And I believe this is in, no, I don't believe it is. I know, it's in Cheshire East. The lens housing compartment is opened by pushing this button over here. Make sure it doesn't fly open so you can use your hand to guide it open. And if you happen to have a stiff version, make sure that these levers are fully stretched out so that they're straight. You set focus in the front here, but you have to measure the focus with a separate rangefinder. Let's put this down. So if you'll be trying the zone focus system, you can shoot it in red dot mode if you find yourself in a pickle. You set your focus to the red dots between the 24 and the 48. If yours is measured in meters, the numbers will be different, but there will be a red dot. And if you set the aperture to this red dot just next to the number 11, you are using the camera set at a hyperfocal setting, meaning that anything beyond 13 feet or roughly 4 meters will be in focus. And I believe that this is referred to as either red dot mode or snapshot mode. The shutter speeds range from bulb to 200, and you can set the shutter speed by turning this front dial to align the tiny red mark at the front here with the shutter speed of choice. The aperture settings go from f4.5 to 22, and you select your aperture with this button knob, which pushes this pointed red triangle cursor to the appropriate f-stop value. It's much easier to use this flat knob than the tiny cursor. And the apertures run continuously in a smooth, non-stepwise manner. Cock the shutter by pulling the shutter lever and hit the shutter button to expose, and you can do that using the button at the top of the camera with your finger or with the cable release. This camera, I've read, has double exposure protection apparently, but I don't think this is the case for my particular copy. I can't remember if perhaps the film interlocking mechanism does work when there is film inside, but like I said, I don't remember that being the case, so I don't think that's working in my camera. So once you hit the shutter, you shouldn't be able to release it again until the film knob is wound. Also, in a working copy related to what I just mentioned, there should be a little red flag in your viewfinder telling you that the shutter is not yet ready, or that the shutter is interlocked and you need to wind the film winder so that you can hit the shutter. And I believe that once you wind it, that little red goes away, but I don't have that. The selenium light meter, I've read, tends to last, but mine has lost its sensitivity. If I were to use this, I would end up with a severely overexposed photo. The method for using the selenium light meter involves setting the camera to the ISO or ASA that you are shooting with. Touch this little rod on the side of the selenium light meter door and it should flip right on up. If you point your camera to your subject, you will see this needle move up and down. Where the needle sits, turn this knob on the left to align the needle circle to the needle, and this should inform you which shutter speed and f-stop value to set for that scene to expose for middle grey. As mentioned, mine has lost its sensitivity, and I know this because I tested it in broad daylight using the Sunny 16 rule as a guide, and with that scene, with an ASA between 160 and 320, I should have been instructed to shoot a shutter speed of 200 with a matched aperture of close to 16, and it was saying f5.6, which would have drastically overexposed my film. Anyway, this knob here is for flash sync. Open the back to load the film by pulling down this lever over here. Make sure your take-up spool is in the right film chamber. You see the slit at the top of the spool? It needs to match the slit at the top. Gently place the spool to match the slit. You can turn the film winding knob to assist. Once it feels right, you can pull this bottom knob to allow the spool to fall into place, and then turn the winding knob to direct the spool into place. Take your roll of 120 film, remove the sticker, and similarly to the take-up spool, place it in this left chamber. There's no slits that you need to match, you can just place it in. Give it a wiggle if you need to, make sure all is clean, pull the film over, and fit the slit into the take-up spool. Do some winding of the knob and assist the film until it is taken, and once taken, wind on until you see the arrow, and then close. Open the counter window and wind the film until you see the arrows, and then the dots, and then number 1, and you're ready to shoot. After you expose your first image, Advance the film and look through the window to wind until number 2. And you can do this for 12 exposures. And after your 12th, you can wind your film on until you feel it completely spooled in. You can then open up again and remove your exposed film. All in all, this is a cool little camera. It's small and compact when it's closed. It fits into the pockets of cargo pants. It's light. If you plan to just shoot in snapshot mode, it's quite a convenient little thing to carry around, considering it's a medium format camera. The potential image quality that you can get with this lens is decent, and overall this is a great little camera, unless zone focusing stresses you out. Let's leave it at that. If you have ever shot in snapshot or red dot mode, please do let me know or tell me about your experience. I am quite curious about that. Feel free to hit the thumbs up if you enjoyed this and subscribe to my channel if you'd like to see more videos of this nature. Don't forget to keep taking photos, keep making videos, take care of yourselves, and I'll catch you in the next one. Cheers. That's Aunt Cecilia, as you can tell, living life on the edge, making us a little nervous. We're here. We're here.
In the normal path.
Following the normal path.
And Uncle Andrea is over there.
And Uncle Andrea over there. Like us, not quite living life on the edge, but happy nonetheless.